Well, here we go. All right, so we're going to talk about wave bowls, how to make a wave bowl. And I have to shout out to John Beaver and thank him. He's sort of the father of the wave bowl. Excellent turner, just a great guy. And here's a website that on YouTube that is just really well done for a lot of the basics that I'm going to show you, and probably some that I won't show you because I forgot, but we'll go from there. But that's a great website. So it's probably an hour plus long, but it's really well worth it. If you're going to do some wave bowls, then you want to get on it, take a look at that. For what I'm doing is I have notes, and if you want a copy of my notes in a sort of a step-by-step type thing, I'll be happy to send it to you. Just email me and I'll send you an email copy if you're interested. Okay, so wave bowls. There are actually three styles, if you will, of wave bowls. The first style is just a plain wave, flush with a surface, and it's fairly simple. You can use a different wood to put in there for that, if you like, or use the same wood that you had.
Is that better?
Be kind of silly to do the same wood because it would look like just a regular bowl. You wouldn't notice a wave except if you don't do a very good cut and glue job, then it'll show. The second kind is a protruding wave. Are we in good? Okay, it looks good. Is a protruding wave. Now I'm not going to demonstrate this tonight. If we want, we can do it later. But the process is very much the same for the recessed wave. Now this is recessed, and most of these others are recessed. I've just done a lot more of them than the protruding wave. So, but those are basically the three things that you can do as far as wave bowls go. I want to show you the jig that you will want to use. You can do some wave bowls without the jig, and I'll go step by step through a couple things on that. But if you want to do any of the wave bowls like these, then you really need to build a jig for your bandsaw. And I bring the bandsaw in because I found out that all bandsaws don't have the same table dimensions and this and that. Even I have two deltas, and they're both different. So, so here we go. Let's show you the basic part of the band. So you got three pieces. One is a stable piece that goes on the bandsaw. It has a runner that goes in the miter slot. And the way you start this off is get your miter slot piece glued in, set it on your bandsaw. Am I in the way? No? Okay. Set it on your bandsaw and run your blade up, turn it on, run it up to the center. So run a line down the center, perfectly perpendicular to your blade, all the way across your board, and run your blade right up to that point, and then stop. The next thing you want to do is drill a bunch of holes, because that's the way your pivot is going to be on this piece here. Part of the pivot is on this piece. Okay? So once you've done that, you can slide that on, put it up to your line, and then you want to clamp it down so this thing doesn't move. So let's see if we can get this clamped. Then we'll have it set up. Now I already have a pin in there. Let me show you about that pin. So the pins on the bottom of this and go into the different holes are your basically the radius or the diameter. That if you're doing an 8-inch bowl, then you're going to have a pin with 8 inches. Where are we? Oh, I'm sorry. Where am I in? Okay. So all the holes are numbered. I've drilled them every 1/2 inch from the edge of the blade, And you want to recess this a little bit, and this is a toilet bowl nut bolt, because you want to put it in there and so it doesn't twist on you as you're tightening it up. Okay, so you get that on, slip it up, slide it up to the proper line. Now I need to put a block under here because these things are a pain to clamp otherwise. Okay. Yeah, I need more fingers on my one hand. I'll just put it up there. Okay. But you want to snug this down because you don't want this to move on you. So I'm going to clamp both sides. Now it shouldn't move because of the miter slot, but even so, it's better to clamp it. I got it. Yeah, it's good. Okay. Okay, the second piece. Excuse me?
The pin is for the size of the circle?
Yes. Yeah. So if you got a 4-inch bolt, then you're going to put the pin in the 4-inch hole. That's 4 inches from there. Now, that's not a hard, fast rule. You don't have to do that, because if you want a sharper wave or a flatter wave, then you adjust in or out from there. Okay, before I go and show the rest of this, I want to give you a little hint. So I made this little gizmo. It's a laser pointer, and I use it to slide up. So here's the end of my deal. I can slide the bowl up, and as you can see, am I in the right place? This? Okay. All right. Good. Good to go? Either up or down. So I use a laser pointer if I'm going to do, especially if 2 different waves, and if you're going to rotate the axis so that you can see how close together those waves come in a thing. So set it on. You slide this forward to the depth of where you want your first wave. And then you're going to have your pin set at your arc that you want it at. And then you can rotate this, without that, rotate this, and it'll show you exactly where that wave is going to go. So what I do is there's a chalk line that maybe you can see. Yeah. So that chalk line tells me that this is the wave it's going along, and you can see where it's going to go. So if you're going to do 2 or 3 waves on a bowl and you don't want them to cross over each other, this is kind of an interesting gizmo. It'll show you where that wave goes. And you can, I usually have this under it so I can rotate it nice and quick. I follow the laser pointer with either a pencil or the piece of chalk, and mark halfway over. If you want, you can rotate the bowl all the way over. Now, and it really helps a lot when you do two waves and you're changing your starting point so that you can tell where they're going to overlap. So that's just an aside, something. So nothing fancy. You don't need all this. You can just have a right angle type thing and run a board off of it with a little laser pointer on it, and it gives you a really good idea of exactly where your cut's going to be. Okay. All right. The second part of your jig is basically a platform for your rotation. So this goes on, and there again, these are 1/2 inch spaced holes, and the radius that you want, or excuse me, or the diameter of your bowl is going to be the radius on this. So if it's an 8-inch bowl, it's a number 8 hole, and you're going to pop that on here, and find the number 8. Where is it? Line it up sometimes, it's hard to find. You're going to put a washer and a bolt or a nut on there, and you want to tighten this down because you don't want this to be flopping around up and down. You want it to be fairly tight. Since it's going to rotate, I take a little wrench. Now this nut has one of those lock washers inside it, to keep it from turning on you. So get it down. You don't want it super tight, so you want this to slide nice and easy because that's what you're going to be cutting. You're rotating this to cut your wave with. Okay, the third part is how you're going to mount your bowl on there. Now this has a, let me get rid of it. This has a slot down the middle. It has to go all the way through because of this nut here is going to slide up and down in this groove. So this is your sliding part. This is going to move so that you start your wave here. You're going to slide it forward a little further, cut the second part of your wave. So this, you want a big radius hole in here. You want a bolt that's the same as going to connect to your chucks. So this is for a Powermatic, so it's what, inch and an eighth by 16 or whatever it is. Get a big bolt. Yeah, there you go, the back of the bolt. This is sort of a spacer, like a washer and a washer. And you want a 90-degree angle. This board has to be here because this piece goes up, is split down the middle. So that helps hold it together. So this goes on top. Now, you can make a miter slot for this on both sides or put another board on the outside like I did for your guide. So it's nice. It slides easy, but there's no play. Okay, so once you get that all together, you want to bolt it down. I made a wrench to tighten this guy up so that I was too cheap to go buy the wrench. So I put a couple washers on there, a couple big ones and a couple small ones. Then I put a couple wing nuts. Again, those are toilet bowl bolts that go up through the bottom. And they're nice because they stay in there pretty well. If they're a little loose in there, put a little tape on it and push them up so they don't drop out on you, because sometimes they're outside. When you slide your bowl back far enough away, then they drop out on you. Okay, so the way you set this up then is once you get your bowl on there, you get it tight, you're gonna, and we'll go through this in a minute, but lining up your spot on the where you want to start and how you figure that out. We'll cover that in a minute. You're going to slide your bowl up all the way, touch the blade, and then on this side of the mark, you're going to put a zero, make a mark on the tape on the side, and you're going to mark it as a 0. So you know this is where the blade is touching the bowl. Then you're going to back off, turn your bowl. You're going to slide this up. Now you're going to look where you want to start your cut is going to, in this case, let's say 3/4 of an inch from the top of the bowl. Well, then you make a mark 3/4 of an inch ahead of the 0 line, and that's going to be your first cut. And then when you cut it, then you slide it again, however thick you want your wave to be. In my case, around a 1/2 inch or so. Mark again another line, and as you do that, these wing nuts here you have to loosen up because this is going to slide on you. Once you get to the position you want, then you lock it down, okay, with the wing nuts. So in this case, we're going to cut a wave that is, here's the 0 line, and then we're going to slide it up to the number 1, and then we're going to make a cut. But before we get there, we have to do some other things. So we're going to take a step back and do some other things. Any questions so far? No. When you mark your top piece where you want that cut to start, and you've slid your mechanism to that point, it's going to start cutting deeper in the bowl than it is at this point here. Okay, it's going to come from back here up to this point and then curve back here. Okay, this is the deepest cut, is where it is right now on the outside edge of that bowl. And then as that rotates, it'll come up to the mark you had, that 3/4 inch, and then it rotates through. Okay, that gives you the curve. Yeah. Back out what?
Slide it back as though you were the blade was reversed.
Oh. I don't know if you can see the other side's exactly the same as this side.
It would show where the blade is.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, with right here, the blade should be, when it's on 0, the blade should be right there in the center. So it's touching the edge of the bowl. Now, once you slide back, slide it sideways, that's when you move it up to your first cut line. Okay? And so you're on this side of the blade. So as you rotate this into that blade, that starts cutting. And then let's go through. We'll get there. We'll see it.
Noticing in your example, the blade is going to be following the grain. Is that by design or is that?
Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about that right now. Okay. All right, let me get back around here. I'm going to leave that set. All right. So there are principles for a wave bowl. Now these are John Beaver's principles, and you're going to see that I don't follow them very well a lot of the time. But one of the things that you want to look for is, okay, we're good? All right, can you see the top? The top of the bowl, the opening and the top of the bowl has to be smaller than the greatest diameter. So your bowl is going to always curve up in this way. It's kind of like a calabash. Is that right? A calabash comes up and curves in. So that's his recommendation. Always have it smaller here than the widest part of the bowl. The widest part of the bowl he likes to have at the middle third from the top to the bottom of the bowl. That's where he likes to see it. And your wave is going to start above that largest diameter, and it's going to continue and want to go below the largest diameter. So you want to split the wave kind of evenly above and below the largest diameter. That's John's rules and recommendations. Some of these bowls you'll see that the largest diameter sometimes is above or below, what's going on. So I'm not very good at determining where that goes. Let's see. So we talked about the radius. The diameter of the largest part of the diameter of the bowl is what you normally are going to set for on your jig. And hole number 8 is 8 inches. Hole number 9 is 9 inches. The shorter bowls are there. So whatever it is. However, if you want a steeper curve, then you're going to get a smaller diameter. If you want a flatter curve, then you go to a bigger diameter. But that's the advantage of having a gizmo like this. You can kind of look to see what it looks like on a bowl. I've got one, I'm trying to do a cross wave that's going to cross over. And I had to make the wave a little sharper curve than, so if it was a 6-inch diameter bowl, I went to a 4-inch diameter setting, because it gives you a sharper curve. Well, then when you'd rotate 90 degrees, those two cross over each other. So I haven't cut it yet, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. Okay, so those are the basics on it. Now the bandsaw blade that he recommends and that I've been using is a 1/4-inch blade and about a 14 tooth. If you can get a good 14 tooth blade without too much offset is the blade that you want to use. Okay, the other thing is you want to look at the grain on your bowl to see where what's the best way? This way? Is that good? Or okay, overhead? Does that look good? Can you see the grain? So here's the grain, a lot of curve in the grain on this part of the bowl. Rotate your bowl and look, well, here's a big round spot and the grain is going this way. Here's the other side and the grain is going this way. So you kind of look at it, and some grains are pretty straight, and so you can kind of pick a spot where you want to go. Generally speaking, if the bowl is curved this way, this is where you want to have your point up on the jig, so that the cut is going to be here. This will be the high point. It'll follow the curve of this grain then. That's the way, so that's why you want to mark this, and you want to mark 180 degrees on the other side. That's going to be where your starting point is when you put it on your jig. Okay? Okay, so you can do a wave bowl without a jig. Probably one of the easiest ways to do is take a cube, if you can, square piece. Can you go overhead? Let me grab my marker. Here we go. So, following the principles that John did, you want to mark some space at the bottom of your bowl for your chuck, if you're going to chuck inside or outside, and then give a little bit of room for a foot. Measure the distance from the top to the bottom and draw a line 1/3 of the way across. Then you can see your curve. If you want to make the curve so that the top of the bowl is a little bit smaller than the largest diameter, which would be at this 1/3, and then draw down to where you want the foot, about how big you want the bottom, and then you're good. So your wave in this case will start somewhere above the largest diameter, go across to below the largest diameter. And then you can go cut this. So this is going to be a straight wave. It's not going to be a curved wave. You can cut this on your bandsaw, but you may have some ripples. It's hand cut. Put it on your chop saw, put it on your table saw, as long as it's not thicker than what you can get a cut on. You can cut these on your bandsaw. Then you take a piece of veneer of some sort, size it, glue it, fit it in there, clamp it up, shut it, glue it, and then cut your bowl. And you get something that looks like this. It's straight. Well, it's almost. It kind of looks, might have a little curve to it. Now this is long grain bowl, right? This is not totally recommended because you're cutting and you're gluing, and long grain doesn't glue as well as side grain. So if you take side grain and do the same thing, then you'll probably get a better glue joint. So most of the wave bowls John recommends, and I do too, is they do regular bowl type side grain orientation. Do we want to pass these around? Does that work? Okay, so that's one way you can do it without messing with a jig. You can do some play time and you see how those see how those look and how they come out. So if you want to cut a wave, you do the same thing. Get your block, put your lines on, put your lines on, draw a line for your curve, draw your bowl so you're up there ahead, and then draw down again and there, and then go to your bandsaw and cut your line on your curve. And so there you go, this is what you get. Now, you're gonna find out that this is freehand, so you wanna do this as smooth as you can and not have any hesitations or stops or starts or anything, because every little stop and start you get a ripple. It's really hard to do. So what do you do to fix that? Because when you glue a piece of veneer in here, they are pretty flat, and then you got all those ripples and waves. So take a piece of sandpaper, double-sided tape, stick it on there, take the top, put it on, and then sand it. Back and forth, rotate it a little bit till you get all those little ripples out. You can kind of feel it. And then double-sided tape, put it on the opposite side, and then do the same thing. Sand it to kind of make it as smooth as you can. Then get a piece of, Murphy is here, isn't he? Okay, Murphy's Law. Take a piece of veneer, and this, you can do a piece of veneer about 1/4 inch thick. That's better or smaller. Most of these have a little smaller veneer in them because they're easier to bend. The way to do this with the bigger, thicker ones, or if it's not a veneer like that's real flexible, you want to heat this in a microwave. So what do? You want the grain to match your grain. So you got grain going this way here. You make sure your piece of veneer or piece of wood is going to match the grain to go that way. Wrap this up in a couple paper towels. Soak it with water, put it on a microwave plate that's glass. Put some water on it so it's good and soaked, lots of water on it. Stick it in a microwave for about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Now, maybe 1/4 inch should be longer. I've broken quite a few 1/4 inch pieces. So the thinner is easier. So don't start with 1/4 inch, start with some thinner material. Soak it in the microwave. Carefully, when you take it out, it's going to be hotter than heck, so be careful. Put it on there. Put the top on, and one thing I want to tell you, it saves you a lot of work. Before you start this, drill 2 holes in the top. 1/4 inch holes on the inside so that you're not going to be cutting those as part of your outside of your form. So put the holes inside far enough, because and then you want a couple 1/4 inch dowels. Did I spill those too? Yeah, here we go. Here's one. We got 2 dowels. Make sure that they go in your the 1/4 inch dowels sometimes aren't 1/4 inch in size, so you may have to sand them a little bit. But then slide those, make sure they go, oh, I got it backwards. They don't match up. That will help you assemble it. So once you get your piece of veneer, kind of match, put it on, match, mark where the holes are, and cut a hole a little bigger than the 1/4, maybe a 1/2 inch hole in those 2 spots, because as this bends, you want to have a little play in there. Okay, so heat it up in the microwave, stick it on there, put this on top, clamp, put your dowels in, clamp it down, and the thinner ones will clamp pretty good. You can squeeze it down and leave it for a while, a couple hours. Okay, then release the clamps a little bit, let some air get in there to help dry out the veneer and the wood, and probably best to leave it overnight, and then the next day you can put it all, glued it together. But that way you get a wave bowl without a jig. Okay, so you have some options there. Any questions? Yes? It's a matter of when you look at, this is John talking, when you look at the bowl, you'll see some of the wave and then some of it disappears. If you're looking down on it, especially, you won't see the wave per se, except that part that's just above there, you'll see something, but then it disappears on you. So it's a matter of an aesthetic thing. But you can tell that this one's not too bad. Biggest diameter probably would have been right in here somewhere. So this wave probably could have come down a little more, or a little longer wave. But it's an aesthetics thing, and it's not a hard fast rule. Okay, let me see if I left anything out. Probably the important thing is to drill a hole. Drill those 2 holes for your assembly. It certainly does make things a lot easier. And that's something you're going to do on all these other bowls, is that you're going to drill holes in them. Okay, so here's, let's see, where are we? 4. Here's a couple of wave bowls. You can see this is a fairly thick veneer. This is probably mahogany. This one is a little bit darker. That's probably walnut. Oh, hold them here. Okay. And this is a double wave, so I had to play a little bit and see if I could do a double wave on these smaller bowls like this. So that gives you some idea of what you can do with. Yes, why not? You can, because as long as you can chuck it, the process is, you want to pass those around. The process is, you can pass that too. Just you shape the outside of your bowl. You get it completely finished. Then the next step is you cut the wave. The outside of the bowl you want finished. So, but yeah, you could probably do it with a segmented bowl. Okay, so that now we've gone through the process. In this case, we have a nice bowl. We've got all kinds of figure here. We've marked the area where we want the wave to start as far as our orientation on top of the on the jig, where it is. So we get a curve that's going to match that grain if that's what we want. So the next step is, this bowl is ready to go. You've cut the inside. You want to leave the inside about 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, 3/4 or more, or if you're going to cut a real thin whatever, you can make it as thin as you want. But 3/4 of an inch is a pretty good number. The next thing you want to do is, where did my... Oh, here it is. This is a handy little gizmo, and it's a contour registration thing. They sell these at Lowe's, Home Depot, I don't know, $8, $10 maybe, something like that. So you want to put this in the bottom of your bowl, and then you want to slide all those little spline pieces of wire all the way out to register the curve on the inside of this bowl. And all the way up to the very top. Okay. Now, so you get a nice curve. This is the very top. Should I show it here? This way, okay. Here's the top. You can see the offset. The curve comes down around to the bottom. So once you've done that, take your block of wood, lay it on the block of wood that's about the same depth as your bowl or a little bit shorter. Lay that out, draw the line on it, and cut that on your bandsaw. Cut that curve. You want 2 of these, so they should be exactly the same. And then once you get that cut, try it in your bowl, see how it works as far as it follows the contour or not. If it follows the contour, that's good. If it doesn't, make some adjustments. A lot of times, where are we, overhead? No? Overhead. A lot of times, if you have a real severe curve, you may want to cut the corners a little bit or round that just a hair. So sand a little bit on the edges so it's not just hitting on the edges of the curve. You want it to go around. It's important that this is well glued on there because this is what holds all the pieces together once you cut it up to reorient back to the bowl. Okay, so what you do, you get a good glue gun, and am I here? Can I see? Okay. Don't be afraid to put a lot of glue on there, okay? So my orientation is this is my spot. I'm going to put this right on my spot where I want this to be up and down for my cut. It doesn't have to be that way, but it makes you remember where you're starting and where you're cut. When you orientate your bowl on the jig, that you want this on the upside. This is where you want your cut, the high point on your cut. So maybe I don't even know if that one's in the right orientation or not, because sometimes I just glue them in and I don't pay any attention. I get in a hurry or something. Okay, glue-wise, where are we? Over. Smother this with glue. Put it on good because these don't fit perfect. Make sure that you get a good excess of glue, especially on that outside edge. There we go. And don't get it on your finger, it'll burn the heck out of you. Okay. Then slide that in there and slide it up. Smush it up there against your bowl. Ouch. I got some squeeze out there. And that's fine. Hold it in place so that thing gets set up. And hopefully you'll get some good squeeze out because you want the outside edges to have a good amount of glue on it because that gives you a lot more strength. If there's not enough glue on those outside edges, then stick your glue gun down in there and squeeze some more glue in there. And if you want to stick your finger on it and smooth it off, you can do that, or maybe maybe a little curved piece of wood or spatula or something that you can kind of smooth it in and get it to seal really good along that outside edge. All right, so you're going to do that with both pieces. So once you get both those pieces at 90 degrees to each other, that's just part of that orientation. It's just a good visual for your orientation. Pardon me? Yeah, did I say 90? Okay, I'm dyslexic, I guess. Okay, 180 degrees. Okay, because so the next procedure then, and this is important. Take it to take it to your drill press and drill 1/4 inch hole. Are you overhead? Okay, somewhere in there on both sides. There and there, and hopefully they're parallel to each other. It makes it so much nicer for life when things just kind of slide up together. So yes, glue it up, 2 holes, and do it on the drill press. You can do it by hand. John shows in his video to drill holes by hand. If it's just a simple wave, you probably can get away with doing that. If you're going to do a couple different waves and change your orientation and stuff, you need those so when you start putting 3 or 4 pieces together, it's a whole lot easier. Life is much more enjoyable in that way. You're going to drill a hole down at, you need to go beyond the lowest part of the wave that you're going to cut. Don't go through the bottom. Now, if your bowl's thick enough on the bottom, you don't have to worry too much. Go through all the way through this piece of wood into the bottom a little bit, but you need to go below where the lowest part of the wave cut is going to be, because otherwise when you make that slice, you don't have your orientation whole to put it back together again. That's real important. And again, the 1/4" dowel is big enough. And most of the ones I found, you got stick it in your drill, put a little sandpaper, run the drill until you get it to fit. You don't want it real loose. You don't want it so hard you can't get it in and out, though. You want it to make it easy, slide in and out.
You don't glue those?
No. That's just a way to orientate the pieces that you're cutting apart. Okay? All right. So once you get that done, you're ready to cut. Now, just remember, outside of the bowl should be finished, sanded, ready to go, not with a finish on it, but your contour, all your junk that marks and everything else on it, you want it smooth, because once you cut your wave out, then you can't go back in very easily and to change things. Okay. So we've kind of gone over the apparatus. So make sure you have your orientation, where are we anyway? Oh, good. Okay. You want, make sure this is straight up and down. You could do that with a right angle deal if you want. Set it here. Get the line on top. Okay. Oh, it's not quite light. Rotate that just a hair until those two line up, or at least are pretty close. You're pretty good there. Tighten it up so it doesn't move on you. Now, sometimes the big bowls, you know, when you bandsaw something, it pulls down. So if you've got some big bowls, then what you might want to do is take a wedge and slide under the end out here after you've set it to where you're going to cut it. Now this is set on number 1, so it's ready to cut. So I'm going to put a couple wedges in there and just kind of keep it out. So when I made this part here, I cut this circle out so that the edges don't get in the way as this thing is rotating around. And this is back far enough, it's not going to hit anything for what most of the stuff that we're doing. So, okay, any questions so far? Don't leave your pins in, because you'll cut them off. You can get them out probably, but it's just a lot of extra work. Okay, so we're ready to cut. Again, you want to be as smooth a cut as you can. Although you're gluing the pieces right back together again that you're taking out for the most part, in most of these cases. So you want to orientate yourself so that when you slide your bowl up there, you know your hand is back here. This is going to be your rotating hand. This hand is going to catch the piece you cut off. So you're going to put it on the back side of the blade though. So don't be holding it here and cut through. Okay, because you get short fingers. That's not how I got mine, but you would get some if you did that. Okay, questions so far? Okay, here we go. Oh, my wedge fell out. You get much vibration, that can happen. So going to ease into it. And then just as smooth as you can. Now that's coming through the outside edge of the bowl into my glued in piece. And so that's the sound changes and the resistance changes. And all of a sudden it'll pick up speed on if you're not careful, because you're not cutting as much thickness as you were. And depending on the wood you're using, if you're using a really hard, dense wood, it's probably going to be a little slower than a soft wood. So we're coming around and we're going to hit that other block of wood. Now you just notice I moved my body and my feet. Chances are I caused a ripple when I did that. I'm usually pushing a little bit with the left hand, but most of my movement is with the right hand, pulling this towards me. Now I got to come over here to catch the offcut. Now turn it off before you slide it back. Okay, so there's your one cut. You guys can take a look at that. So you may have to slide this behind you a little bit. It never seems to be exactly clear. And now, the next thing, you're going to slide this up to your second cut number, right? Loosen your deals, slide it up to the number 2 cut. All right, tighten it down. Good to go. See if there's anything that's in your way. Put a wedge under there if you like. Not necessary. I cut my wedge off because it rotated some on it. Okay. Now we're going to slide up the thing. We're going to get ready. Well, it's rotating back here on a bolt. This whole platform here is rotating. Yes. Yeah. In this case. Now, that little block I showed you earlier, we just cut it straight across. You could do that too with a bigger bowl, but it takes a big saw. You know, you need a gigantic saw. Okay, so we're ready to cut second blade. Second cut. Ease into it. Try not to distort the blade at all at the very beginning, because it's cutting on into an angle on the bowl. Getting close to cutting through the side. We're in the glue block. As soon as we come out of the glue block, you'll hear it change pitch because it's less resistance. Not quite yet, but it's easier now. The glue block is softer wood. Okay, we just came out of the glue block. Hear the change? And we're right on my line that I drew on the bowl as far as the thickness, which I'm very happy to see. Okay, now you hear the change again. We're starting cutting into that glue block. And then pretty soon we'll be in the side, on this side. As far as cutting speed goes, that's one of those things you can experiment with. Goes faster or slow and see how it works for you. Okay, we're in the thick on this side again. This wood is pecan, and it's pretty hard. Okay, we're getting pretty close to coming out. You can hear the saw change. Bingo. There we go. That's all there is to it. That's the hard part. Well, it's not really. It's not the easiest part. It's not the hard part. Oh, off, turn off. Okay. So here's our wave. Why don't you pass that around real quick? Everybody take a quick look at it. The other piece, where is it? Oh, everybody see it? No? I'll run it by real quick. Okay. So that's that's where the wave comes from, unless you're going to do it by hand. And I don't recommend it. Now I was experimenting because I wanted to have a double wave. I had a nice wide bowl, and I wanted to do a double wave. The problem is that when you start your cut, it's on the back side of the bowl, so you can't really see where you're starting. The other thing is you can't use this jig, at least for the rotation, because you're doing two different waves. You have to freehand it. Now, this makes a good freehander, this piece. You can take this off and mount whatever you want on here and cut with it, freehand it. And I've done that. Well, this Christmas tree star, I cut, it was mounted on the chuck, and I cut it on the bandsaw. Not this part. I turned all this down, and I wanted to put a star on top, so I used this part of the jig to freehand the star. Now, in order to do that, I had to get a bigger table, because it was sticking way out here and way out here to get the different angles and things. So you can use these jigs for different things. The other thing that I've done is make a cowboy hat. Oh, okay. Make a cowboy hat. And you can either make it turn up or turn down. You can make a Haas Cartwright, big old tall hat or flat short hat, whatever you want to do. And the way I do that is chuck up a piece in your chuck, set your diameter probably about, in this case, 2 inches or 3 inches, run a slice through, move it up, run another slice through. You can make them thick, make them thin. Before you do that, drill a hole in it. The size of the dowel, if you're going to use a dowel of the hat, drill a hole first. It's so much easier than trying to drill a hole in this after you've cut it. So much easier. Then you take your dowel, you stick it in the hole, glue it in, and you can carve the hat however you want. And I've made a bunch of these. These are fun. I mean, they're kind of cool to do. So that's another use for it. So you can use this part here, attach things on your chuck, whatever you got in your chuck, freehand sanding, or if you're machine sanding, it's something that holds it, maybe off the lathe, so that it can be used for more than just that sort of thing. The other thing it can be used for is cutting a bowl to put this on it. Where am I? Lower. Okay. So you're on that camera? Okay. So this is what, 6 pieces. The bowl's been cut all the way through. You put it on your chuck, put it on your sled, slide it through, cut a hole, put your veneer in there, shape it before you put it in there. Turn it, cut it again, do it over, do it over. You can do it as many times as you want, but you can use this sled with your chuck to do something like this also. You don't want to use all this apparatus, but use the sled, and you'll slide it in. You may want to put a piece of fencing on here to line up with your center point, so you're sliding straight through when you cut this. And there's a special way to do it and leave it on your chuck. Just don't cut your chuck, but you're gonna set your chuck so the space is in, so you can get the blade through most of the bottom of the bowl of your thing. But so there's another use for that. So if you're gonna do wave bowls, then there's some other things you can use the jig for. Good. All right, so next step is the wave. It is going to be either protruding or recessed, right? So we're going to do a recessed wave. So you want to, how deep you want the recess to be? Quarter inch is kind of a nice depth. You can make it thinner or you can make it thicker. It's up to you. So what you want to do is you want to take the wave. This is the top of the box. This is not. This is the wave. You need to mark it. So you can take a marking gauge. Use this. You can take. I like this little gizmo. It's a compass. It's again one of those cheap ones from Home Depot or whatever. But the thing I like about this is this little offset right here. Point and then your pencil. Okay, we're good. So I like. You got a good. Is that a good view? Okay, that's better. So this little point comes down and there's got a little ledge there, which I like because when you put this on the edge of your bowl, then that will rest down on the edge. I gotta change the pencil. Set it so, where am I showing here? Is that good? So that the ledge is on top of the edge and then the point is on the outside edge. And not centered. Which way? Out. Okay. Does that show good? Okay. So that way, then tighten your pencil down and set that, if that's your quarter inch, then you're going to scribe that all the way around the bowl wave on both sides. You need to do it the same on both sides because when you sand this back, you want it to follow the curve of the bowl. So part of that curve is going to be like this. So sand as you're sanding, and I would do it on a disc. If you have a belt sander, that's the machine, the big ass machine, belt sander or the side sander, or if you have a little 1-inch sander, the belt 1-inch belt, makes things go faster. But you're going to trim that off to that line on both sides and make it even. So it's going to be at a little bit of an angle. That way, that's your recessed wave then. The next thing you're going to do is finish it. You want to put all the finish that you want to do on this, whether if you're going to dye it or color it, it doesn't matter, but you want to put the finish on. Now, if it's not going to have any finish different from your bowl, then you can glue it back together. I don't have one. This one is. This protruding wave is finished. It's the same. There's nothing different about the wave. It's just part of the grain. All the rest of these have some sort of a finish on them. So dye it, paint it. You can whatever you want to do. Do not get any material on the flat or top or the bottom flat. That's your glue spot. If you get, now dye is one thing. When you dye this outside, you get some maybe that will leak, follow the grain a little bit, but I don't think the dye is going to impact your glue. It's not going to fill the pores. But if you're painting and you're putting a lacquer or any other finished material and you get it on this surface, then you're going to affect your gluing. So I have got to a point where I spray lacquer a lot of stuff. I'll put my dye on, and I may actually brush a seal coat, lacquer sanding sealer coat, making sure I don't get any over the edge. If I'm going to spray it, I'll tape this. And I'll take a very sharp knife and cut the edge very carefully, and so that there isn't any leakage on this flat surface. So this will be totally finished on the outside edge when you go to glue it together. If you don't, it makes a hell of a lot more work to finish it. Okay, so we got it all done. We got it cut, sanded, finished. The next step is glue it together. Type bond glue is really great. It really works well. If you're going to do end grain stuff, John recommends Type Bond 2. He thinks you get a better glue joint with open pore, end grain wood. I don't know. I'm not a glue man. I guess if we call Type Bond, we should be able to get an answer from them. But I can't imagine it's going to make that much difference. No, there's no secret to this gluing. This red line is showing on the outside on this bowl. So, oh, excuse me. It is because this is a second wave. Excuse me. Oh, this way? Okay. Yeah. So this is the second wave. Now, when I've got my, when I'm using these dowels, especially if there's more than one or two, more than the three pieces, I always label them A and B, or mark one dark and one white or whatever, so I know how they go back together again. So we're going to be gluing this piece on. I've already glued these two on, so we're getting ready to glue this piece on. So as you can see, there's some red here that is showing on the outside. So I had to finish that part before and make sure I didn't get anything inside the glue line, so that when this goes on, then it's covered up. Question? Yes. So I have two waves, so that's 4 cuts. So then you have the in-between piece, and then you have the top piece. Get the holes lined up. So that's what the whole bowl looks like. I've already glued the bottom piece and this one to the bottom part. So what we have to do now is yes. Well, yes. There's 4 cuts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yep. So this piece didn't reduce any, as far as these two were reduced as far as the width goes. This piece is not. This is part of the original contour of the bowl. This piece is the original part of the bowl. So this is the regular contour. This was the finished. This one is finished. This one is finished. So since I decided to color this, I had to do that before I do the rest of it. That's why it was a lot more work, because I had this space that I couldn't get stuff on. So I marked it, and hopefully I didn't exceed the tolerance. So that's why that red is over the edge. So.
You haven't hollowed that bowl yet.
No, this was the first one. I have not hollowed it, but I drilled the holes, just like I showed you on those little square things. So I wanted to see how this works out, and I won't know until I go to hollow how it, what happens. All the others have all been hollowed down to that 3/4 inch thickness or so, and then go from there.
How do you get the waving beads on the brown and black one?
On this one, I cut a big wave, and then I hand cut that, a Dremel or whatever type thing, and yeah. So I kind of like it. It makes it look like a wave. I did a bowl that the bottom was a kind of a light tan. The wave was dark blue, like a water, and the top was light blue. So I call it my sand, surf, and sun. So, but yeah, I cut the waves in it, and I said, well, that looks like it's like a real wave, So, just playing. Lots of different ideas. There's a million things you can do. You can see on this bowl, it got pretty thin right here. I don't believe that I used my laser on this. I think I was eyeballing it, or maybe I just drew. I don't know, but it was pretty close to cutting through. And as you can see, this side's just a hair thicker. Where are we? Overhead? No. Okay. We're over there. Anyway, you can see this is just a hair thicker than this side, probably twice as thick as this piece is right here. So that tells me that when I am cutting, my jig may not be perpendicular, or at least the edge of the bowl or whatever is not perpendicular to the bandsaw blade. So that's one thing you may want to check. When you rig your jig up, make sure that your bandsaw table is parallel or perpendicular to your blade. And depending on your cut speed and stuff too, that can affect, how that works also. Or what's in between. If you got those big thick pieces of wood in there, when that blade hits those, they can deflect a little bit more going through there. So you can get some variation. So that's why I rigged up this laser thing, so I could try to eliminate, falling through like this. Okay, gluing. So, bottle of glue. The secret, I don't know if anybody has ever used a straw to help clean up. Yep, good. A good straw, cut it at a good sharp angle. You want a point. Where am I? You want a really good point on it. And you need some Q-tips. You need some water. Maybe a paper towel, but then we're off. And I have a glue brush, so, and I always have trouble opening these glue bottles, so I've got a 9/16 inch or something like that, 9/16 inch. Just put it under there and pop it open. Ooh, there comes out the glue. Now, you don't want to overdo this as far as you don't want a massive glue coming out, because it's a mess to clean up. It's a lot of trouble. Normally, when you glue these, your thickness is only 3/4 inch, or maybe a little less than that, depending on how deep your wave is. Could be a 1/2 inch or so. So it's really not too much. Get your glue out there. It's going to be hard for me not to glue on this red part here, because it's just, it's going to come out. But I'm not going to put any glue on that. I'm going to put the glue from there on the inside. And hopefully I don't overdo it too much. Or well, you could, but it should be, that's a lot of work to put it on there. I think hopefully with a little water and Q-tips and the straws that we can get it out. A lot of times I'll take this off and put it on the flat, and probably what I should do today, because it might be a little less runny if I can get it off. Where's my yeah, I need my yep. No, that's not it. Yep. Thank you. Where's the button? Lock button. This is a new lathe. Does anybody know where the lock button is?
Right, it's on the left side. Above the spindle.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right. It'll make it just a little easier for me to spread this on the flat. So, yes. I can. I'm going to try. In this case, I'm going to try really hard not to get any glue on the. Oh yeah. That's all right. Keep me honest, and we'll see. Is that enough? All right. All right, so I don't want to spend too much time with this. I'm going to get it right up close to the edge, and I figured I'll get some squeeze out. But I want to get it, make it glue at least a good 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch inside. And I'm going to put a little bit right there in the middle too, because I don't know what this is going to do when I go to hollow the inside. All right, come on. The dowels? Yeah. Well, not really at this point. I know that I can fit all the pieces together because I've done it enough times. The other part's been glued, so it's not too much of a trouble. Yes, at this point, yeah. No, this is the first one. As far as solid, yeah, without cutting the inside out, yeah. Yeah, this is the first one. You know, you save some steps because you don't have to glue those blocks in. So that makes it a whole lot of time savior. And it's, you don't burn your fingers with the glue, gluing those things up. So, all right, we're about done. All right, let's see what we get. All right, take this over here, close that guy, put this in the water. It doesn't matter, that stuff usually cleans up pretty easy. Okay, there's my A on the top. So here goes A and B. Slide that on. A and B. Now, John recommends, and I do too, you only do one surface at a time. So this is my 3rd time I've glued. And I got one more to go yet. Here's a. Now, you want to slide this guy up. You want to use something that you can slide up, and if you want to cut your dowels off, you can cut your dowels off so they're not sticking out, and put a flat piece of wood on there. But then you want to clamp this down, and let's see what we get. Squeeze it out pretty good. I don't see a whole lot of squeeze out. I don't know if that's good or bad. Let's clean up. Okay, so first thing I do is I grab my handy straw and I'm going to slide it right in. Is this a good place to do it? Or you want a side view? You want me to stand on the other side? You okay, overhead? Okay. Just slide that point down in there and just let I don't have much squeeze out here, so yeah, that's not a good thing, possibly. So here we go. Is that showing? Okay. So here we go. Get a little glue in there. And once you get some in there, you want to go ahead and squeeze it out on a paper towel so that it doesn't give you a wider crack. Okay, well, I think I'm done. There wasn't enough squeeze out to, yeah. On the other side? Okay, so just keep going around and round with your straw. Get as much of that as you can, and then go to your Q-tip, dampen it, and squeeze it out. You don't want to have a really wet Q-tip because then you're shoving water potentially in the crack, and that's going to dilute it, your glue. So I don't know. Someone said wood Q-tips are better than the plastic, but I don't know if you can find them anymore. But so squeeze it out so it's pretty dry. Squeeze it down in there into the point and just get that thing in there and go around. And when you get a bunch on there, I got a little red. Once you get a bunch of glue on it, get rid of it. Wet the other end. Squeeze it out.
Randy, if you go into the cosmetics section, they make Q-tips with chisel points.
Ooh.
Really
Wow. Nice. Do I need to buy lipstick too? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ah. Okay. So. Well, I would say I lucked out from the standpoint of not having a huge mess of glue out. I hope that there was enough glue to keep it together. That's right. I may have a shorter bowl when you see it next time without a wave, you know. Maybe. Depends on if I had enough glue on the others. So, yeah, this was the least amount of glue. I thought I had plenty of glue on there. Obviously, I didn't. All right, so what's the next step? Well, yeah. Yep. Yeah, finish gluing. Once you get it all finished gluing, let it sit at least overnight. Okay, leave it an hour or so. I could probably go in and glue the other piece on after an hour or so, but to go and turn it, wait for the overnight at least.
You got dowels that are holding those pieces. What's the disadvantage of gluing more than one piece? I mean, they're not going to move.
With the dowels in it, it's a cleanup. Yeah, the big usually there's more glue that comes out, and it takes a lot longer to glue it up. So if you had both sides that you were doing, then this stuff on this side will be starting to set up on you, and it'll be a whole lot harder to remove it. So that's why he recommends one at a time, one side at a time. I'd wait for an hour and then glue the top on. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've got it cleaned up So yeah, I could probably do that, but then I would release my pressure here, so I may get some, spring back or something. It's probably just best to wait. Okay, so the final step, hollow the inside and sand it up real good. Take it off your chuck, and you're done. You got a great bowl. And there's such a variation, and that's why I brought all these other things. Here you got the outie. These are like billy buttons. You got the innie and the outie, and then you got the smooth ones. How do you do the outie? That's the next demo. It's good. So there's so much variation that you can do. You can do big waves, little waves, 2 waves. This one I put some sparkly on it. And this one was dyed inside and out. The idea is you're trying to sell somebody to people say, look, the yellow bowl goes on the inside, the blue bowl is on the outside, so it's a bowl in a bowl. So, Brooklyn bridges for sale. You can texturize wave bowls, and you can do different colors. Let's see what else. Here's a double wave, different colors. I guess that's similar to this one. That's pretty thin. Oh, those are pretty even on those. The other thing you can do is boxes. So here's a wave. Where am I? Does it show? Yeah. So you can do that. That's a pretty steep wave for doing a box. It goes on that side. Fits pretty good. Here's another variation of a box with a wave. It's hollowed. Here's a rudimentary, this long grain. That's one of those early ones that I did. So I was playing around, and you glue in a piece of veneer, but really turns out adds a little something to it. There is a little bit of a technique on the box. If you want the wave like that, you end up putting a sleeve in. Because you can't, if you're going to have a wave on the top and bottom, you don't have the surface to cover the top with. So there is a little bit of a different procedure. So you have a sleeve that you're sliding in, so you have this part that's sticking up. Okay. It's hard to see the glue line on the sleeve, which is good because the grain, you want the grain, you're going to save the piece and to match the grain. Yes. Yeah. It's so much easier. Trying to freehand it can get kind of wacko. It's easy to get just a little twitch or a little shift. That's the thing, they say get your feet set, make sure you're following that wave and just keep that rhythm the same so that you're not getting bumps and irregularities. And it takes some practice to get that, just keep that thing moving as consistent as possible. Any more questions? Yes?
The variable width wave, I understand you're indexing the second cut on the bandsaw, is that what?
Am I indexing it?
Are you rotating the
Yes.
blank a little bit? Is there a general guideline so you don't screw that up winging it?
No. That's why that bowl has that real thin edge, yeah. Now, this guy would help you do that. So when I'm working that, I'm trying to do a cross wave, and I'm trying to figure out when those, you got to cut one and finish it and glue it, and then cut the other one, but how are you going to hide the joint, between them? So I figured, I'll figure that out as we're going along. But to do that, then yeah, you're going to have a difference there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variations. Like I told you, I was trying to do a double wave, but oh my gosh. And I put on a big piece of wood, it was flat, and I chucked it, and I started to cut, but you can't see what the heck you're doing, and it just is really hard to get a smooth cut. And I said, it's probably not worth it. So it'd be all freehand. So, and it could be real erratic, then it would be an appeal to some people. So I don't know.
These jigs are your own, these are not John's, right?
No, I made those. Yeah.
He didn't give directions on that?
Yes.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he showed us his jigs, and most of us wrote down how to do it, you know, what they look like, took pictures and this and that. Now, there is a commercial jig I've seen, and I don't know how it works, but it's a couple $100, isn't it? Something like that, but there is one that some guy came up with, and I think his is probably multi-purpose of some other things you can do, but really the jigs aren't that hard to make, and they sure do make life easier if you're going to cut waves. Gordon?
When you put that back together after you start gluing it, this is flush, I mean, you can't feel anything. Is it gonna be that way because you cut the pieces that are the same size?
Yeah.
Or do you have to do some sanding or anything?
Well, in that bowl you're talking about, yeah, that's flush. That was a square or a rectangle when I started, and when I glued the piece in, it was a rectangle, and then I turned it in the bowl, so the veneer piece was already in there, so it's not a problem getting it flush. Yeah. Now, if you want to add that later to one of these bowls, you can cut the wave out, throw it away, and then put some veneer in there. You know, make it red, white, and blue, or put as many thicknesses as you want in there. You can do that, and then just flush it and finish it.
You mentioned finishing, like if you painted this, you aren't gonna be able to do it.
Yep.
You're gonna take paint.
Well, if you're a really good detail painter, you probably could, but most of us probably, you know, couldn't do that. So, but yeah, there's such a variation, and I'm still playing and learning different things, and it's fun. Probably for me, a lot of times is getting a good enough piece of wood that's big enough, 6 inches or so at least in diameter, and that doesn't have wormholes and all that stuff in it, and to make these. But a lot of it's pecan. This one is not. That's walnut, I think. Oh, this is mesquite. There you go. Yeah, mesquite is great. I love cutting the mesquite man back there. But yeah, so that's it. Any other questions? Anybody want to take this home and finish it? No.
From very start to finish, how many of these bowls can you make in an hour?
Let's see. Where are those little ones? Yeah, that's right. This is still sitting. Yeah. And like I said, anybody that wants my poop sheet, which I didn't follow, I probably left a bunch of stuff off because I get diarrhea of the mouth or something, and probably left a bunch out. Probably something important that you'll learn about if you do it. Okay. I can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And actually, I have a sheet that talks about making this guy. Everybody's bandsaw is different, so don't plan on swapping places. Yeah, I have one for how to put that together. But I mean, take some pictures. It helps. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's what time it is.